to you.
You could just say our Comcast went out when you go home.
Good. Clerk Paul, can we call the committee all to order, please?
Lennon.
Here.
Boywood. Leisure.
Here.
Fate.
Here.
Pabon.
Here.
Ruiz. Here. Aranella. Here. Carmichael.
Here.
7 present, Mayor.
I'll make a motion to excuse Alderman Boywood.
Second.
Motion by Lennon, seconded by Fate to excuse Alderman Roywood. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, we have 2 items for open, but before I start, I just need a straw poll vote real quick. Unfortunately, the request for the Realty of Chicago's turkey giveaway, which is on November 22nd, did not make it to the clerk's office in time to be on the council. So I'm asking for a straw poll vote to allow them to go ahead. They don't need barricades, but they do need just some traffic control. It's November 22nd at 2 p.m., ending about 9 p.m. So if I could have a straw poll vote to approve it. Alderman Lennon?
Yes.
Alderman Leisure?
Yes.
Alderman Fate?
Yes.
Alderman Pavone?
Yes.
Alderman Ruiz?
Just a question, Mayor. Will that be at their old or new location?
Their old location.
Okay, yes.
I'm sorry?
Aye, yes.
Okay. Alderman Aranella?
Aye.
Alderman Carmichael?
Yes.
Okay, I'll pass that on to them. Marge, do you want to keep this for your records then?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so we have 2 items for the Open Committee of the Whole. The first one is the CMAP Capital Improvement Program Technical Assistance Presentation. Somebody from Jacobs Engineering is on the phone.
Go ahead.
Hi, I just want to make sure everybody could hear us. So we have 3 people in the line. So this is Z from Jacobs. Could you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Patrick and Mara, could you guys say something to just make sure everybody could hear you?
Of course. Good evening, everybody. This is Mara Campbell with Jacobs Engineering. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
And this is Patrick Day from CMAP.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and just get started with our presentation today. Just want to make sure you guys have a copy of our printed slides. And is that right?
Yes, we do.
All right, great. So good evening, everybody. Thanks for taking the time for us to present on this project, and I'm very honored to be here. So my name is Z. I am actually the project manager from Jacobs Engineering Group. On the line with me, I have Patrick Day from CMAP, and also Mara Campbell from Jacobs Engineering Group as well. So to kickstart this presentation, I would turn it back to Patrick to share a little bit more about this program and the project from CMAP perspective. Patrick, back to you.
Okay. Thank you, Z. Good evening. My name is Patrick Day. I'm a senior planner with the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, or CMAP, and I have served as the project manager on the CMAP side for the city's capital improvement program technical assistance. I'm joined by Z and Mara from Jacobs Engineering. And I know I'm on audio here, but I kind of just want to note it for the record. I am wearing a blazer and a button-down shirt. I may be at my dining room table, but I'm dressed for the occasion, if I could say that. And next, I'll just give a bit of a background before Z gets into what specifically staff worked on through the course of this project by saying this work came from work undertaken to create the ON2 2050 comprehensive plan. And before that, the region's comprehensive plan, some of you may have participated in creating that. That was Go-To 2040. And after that plan was adopted, setting a vision for the region, the CMAP's Local Technical Assistance, or LTA program, was created in 2011. And we've had the pleasure of working with the city on a number of projects since that time. One that I was involved in was the zoning code update And that, while successful, we wanted to, in creating a plan for the region, better understand what the most meaningful supports are for the region's municipalities. And for On to 2050, we talked with hundreds of officials and staff and delved into the topics of supporting municipalities through technical assistance and writing a strategy paper on the topic and better understanding how we can develop programs that are the most useful and supportive. So that went into detail in the governance chapter of the plan, and it had specific recommendations on how we as an agency can help support a strong quality of life and build on the successes of the LTA program and help municipalities access funding and financial resources to make data-driven decisions. And with those as a guide, we undertook creating some new capacity building forms of assistance. This is one of those. It was made with the intent to build on strengths of municipalities and focused on the reliance on asset inventories and making data-driven decisions in spending and planning for capital improvement projects. That led us to this, which was developed as a fast-paced 6-month project, and it sought to understand existing process and strengths of existing process to identify and fund capital projects, and then work on applying best practices to go a bit further, to extend that out several years, and to streamline processes to evaluate projects given the many needs that you have, the many priorities that compete with one another, how to build a framework that all departments and officials can view those projects and make a data-informed decision that's best for the community. So there are several discrete goals for the program, 3 in fact. I'll just go over them briefly. The first is capital project identification, which focuses on how the community identifies its capital projects using an asset inventory and monetary thresholds for what constitutes a capital project versus bulk paper buying, what is included in a capital improvement plan versus something that's left out of it and listed elsewhere in a budget. The second is capital project development. That includes evaluating and prioritizing capital projects, getting into cost estimating, getting further into scheduling of projects, and which should appear on the next year's or 3 years out from now, and applying performance measures along the way to see how you're doing. And finally, capital project funding. We got into how which elements of projects require additional funding and how to position those projects to qualify for the available fund sources, be they local, state, or federal. So we worked with a variety of participants. There was great participation, which was great to see. All along the way, and sought to attain the goals through a few outcomes that are listed on the slide. The first is an existing conditions report. The second is an inventory of capital projects and assets. The third are standards for evaluating and prioritizing capital projects with some tools developed for that, which Lee is going to be talking about soon. Then there's a recommendations memo that identifies strategies for implementation. That's forthcoming. And finally, the training workshops, 3 of which were conducted, and Zee's going to talk about the content of those, and especially what's relevant to this group that was gone over. But those went very well. So just to review the timeline, as I mentioned, it's pretty fast-paced, particularly for the expertise required for some of the things we talked about, but the groups really went at a fast pace, and I think it was worthwhile on the momentum as we went. It kicked off in June. Many of you might have spoken with Z and Mara during the month of July while the team sought to understand some priorities of the city and to build the inventories and knowledge necessary to understand your process. Then in August, those deliverables were created, including the project inventory and the existing conditions report. Then the 3 workshops were conducted in September and October. Now we found ourselves in November giving this briefing on what was conducted, and later this month is the target for the final recommendations memo. You have my contact information there, and with that, I'll turn it over to Z.
All right. Thank you, Patrick. I just want to make sure everybody is still with us. And I'm Z. I'm from Jacobs Engineering. I will share a little bit more details on what went on during the workshops and some of the reports that we're going to share with Berwyn at the end of this project. So let's go on to slide 2, which I have sort of like a brief agenda. Patrick has touched upon the first 2 items, so I will go over that pretty quickly, but I will spend a little bit more time on item 3 and 4, where, again, I will describe what went on in the workshop. I thought it was a great success. Berwyn staff has really participated well in the workshop, and also we talk a little bit more about the reports that we'll be sharing with Berwyn at the end of this project. So, program and project goals. Let's move on to slide 4. So, again, as Patrick mentioned, there are 3 primary goals for this project. First, we need to help Berwyn to build the capacity to develop your own CIP. Second, we discuss and explore best practices in CIP processes and the use of performance measure in capital planning. And lastly, we hope that through this project, we share some of the tools and tips that could help Berwyn to formalize the CIP process. So you guys, as a city, Berwyn has done a great job really in the capital improvement planning, but moving forward, I think one of what I understand is Berwyn is really hoping to formalize this whole process and, build on the momentum and get that going. So next slide. On this slide 5, you should be able to see 6 pictures that really describe 6 elements of this project. As we mentioned, there are a series of workshops that was conducted. We also did a key person interview at the start of this project, and we will be sharing 4 reports at the end of this project. So a little bit, as we move on to the next slide, I just want to share a little bit about what went on during the key person interview. So maybe I have spoken to some of you guys that's in the meeting today. In June, I actually went down to talk to a couple of youth, mainly the mayor and Ruth, the city administrator, and representatives from public works like Bob, Ben, Mike, and all, and also Ben, the finance director, which I believe is also in this meeting today. So the intent of the key person interviews was really to understand the existing process that happens in Berwyn. And we also work with all of this wonderful Berwyn staff and collected all some data to really understand the existing assets that you guys have and finance practices that you guys have in the city. So at the end of this initial stage, I will call, we produced an existing conditions report, which summarized all our findings about what you guys are currently doing in Berwyn. So moving on to slide 8, that's a slide which shows you 8 steps that we really have shared with Berwyn over the course of this project. So let's take a step back and understand what is actually a capital improvement plan. So in this project, a capital improvement plan, we define it as a 5-year plan that's used to identify, prioritize, and schedule your capital projects and purchases. And over the course of this project, Jacob's team has shared this 8-step method that hopefully Berwyn will find it useful to sort of help you develop and formalize your CIP process. I will talk a little bit more about the 8 steps as I go into the workshop explanation. But next slide, we have some definitions for what is a capital project. So if you think about capital projects, really, what is a capital project? So capital projects typically has this kind of characteristics. So it's large in size, scope, and of cost. So we don't consider buying a printer as a capital project. So it has to be something that involves assets that's of long-term usefulness. And it is also a type of expenditures that typically are not of a recurring nature. So it involves the expenditure of public funds for the purchase and construction or replacement of assets such as streets, buildings, water and sanitary sewer systems, facilities, equipment, etc. So slide 10, we're going to move on to talk a little bit more about this series of workshops that we have conducted in October at Berwyn City Hall. So this is really one of the most exciting components that I personally feel about this project. So in October, we went down to Berwyn City Hall and host a series of 3 workshops, which will cover which we really walk through with Berwyn staff, all the 8 steps, and share all of our tips to help Berwyn develop their CIP. So on the next slide, you will see we summarize the 3 workshops as such, where workshop 1, we really go in a little bit more detail about some of the foundational elements on how to build a CIP. So if you think about what are the foundational elements that we covered, one of it is CIP responsibilities. Really, it's important to identify the right person to be in the process and to also assign the responsibility for each of the CIP contributors, we call it. We also look into asset inventory. Basically, this is like a list of assets that Berwyn has did an excellent job in keeping, and look into this asset inventory and see how we could best use it to identify the needs for capital projects. At the end of that, we also look into ways on compiling all the requests from different departments and eventually to come up with really like a summary of the request. So we call it a capital project inventory. Building on workshop 1, we move on to workshop 2, where we train the participants on how to evaluate and prioritize those projects. So we have a list of projects. Every department comes up with a list of projects, and how do we decide which are probably a little bit more important to Berwyn? So we look at Berwyn's priorities as stated in the comprehensive plan and try to identify, we work with the staff and identify what you think is important to you guys, like areas that you think is important to Berwyn. And then wrapping up the workshop series, during the workshop 3, we talk a little bit more about the money aspect of things. So we provide guidance on performing a fiscal analysis of CD debts, budgets, and capacity. We also explore some of the common financing methods. For example, where do you go to get some grants? And at the end of that, we wrap it up with something about schedule and timeline to help you construct and implement a multi-year CIP. So next slide on product and outcomes. Again, we come back to this 8 steps. At the end of each of these steps, you will see that there's some product and outcomes attached to it. So all of this we have walked through with the participants during the workshop. So I have shared a little bit on the objectives of each of the workshops, but what is really interesting over the workshop is if you go to slide 14, which says breakout sessions in workshop 1. So during this workshop, I think we have quite a great success with all these breakout sessions. These breakout sections, it's like activities where we encourage discussions among Berwyn staff. And through this discussion, we work through a couple of exercises. So 5 of it that we covered during the first workshop are shown on this slide. The first one, we really talked about how do you decide who are the right people to help with the process and what are the responsibilities for them. Second, we talk about how we define a capital project. So it is important to have a dollar threshold and a useful life threshold to decide what we consider as a capital project or not. On the third breakout session, we explore some of the questions to help you establish a policy or guidance. So some of the questions are like, what time period will your CIP cover? Is it like a 3-year, rolling 3-year period, or is it like a 5-year period? And we also explore questions like, what are the key elements you think should be in the CIP policies, and what guides your CIP policies? On the fourth activity, we talk about timeline. It's important to have a timeline so that people know when to establish which kind of activities. And we also look into a little bit into asset inventory. At the end of each workshop, we send back the materials to the participants so they continue to have access to these materials after the workshop. I'm going to go a little bit quicker and talk about the rest of the workshops, but if you go to slide 17, the title will be something like Breakup Sessions in Workshop 2. So building on some of the foundational elements that we cover in Workshop 1, we really, during the Workshop 2, we have, again, 5 activities to help all the participants to identify what are the criteria that you would like to use to evaluate your capital project. So a couple of those are like, what's the condition of your asset? What is the criticality of that asset? That means how important it is to actually fix that asset. We also developed some prioritization criteria. A couple of those are like public health and safety. So public health and safety is often one of the criteria that's pretty important when we talk about capital projects because it has a great impact to the community. We also practice the 139 method to score and prioritize this project. And thank you so much for all the Berwyn staff that participated in workshop 2, and they came back with, actually they completed the homework and came back with a prioritized list based on what we discussed during the workshop. During workshop 3, we wrap up the workshop series by talking a little bit about finance, fiscal analysis and all, and also explore, really get the participants to practice how we could identify potential funding sources for different type of projects. So fast forward, I'm going to skip to actually slide 22, which we talk about deliverables, and moving on to slide 23, where we actually have 5 deliverables as part of this project. As I mentioned, one of it is the series of workshops, and we will also be sharing all of the 4 reports with Berwyn so that you guys have a copy of the document and some of the recommendations from us to help you develop your CIP. So at the end of the day, really, the workshops and all these reports were designed to guide the city of Berwyn to develop a CIP going forward. I understand that Berwyn is really eager on working towards that, and so we are very happy to be able to join you in this journey and provide some of the tips to help you to develop your CIP going forward. That comes to the end of this presentation, and so we are happy to take any questions that you guys have regarding our presentation today.
Any questions from the alderman?
Well, not for her, but Mayor, who exactly was participated in these workshops?
They had several of us. They interviewed me, they interviewed Ruth, they interviewed Ben. They developed, I was not in one of the workshops. I was one of the people that they interviewed in the beginning. That was basically it. Ruth, who was in those workshops?
Within those workshops, I was there as the city administrator, then Ben and Dana were there from the finance department, and also we had representatives from engineering, and that was the majority of the workshops. That's who took place, and we'd be coordinating, and our current capital list is expiring at the end of the year, so as soon as we were done with these workshops, I'm going to start working, and we're going to start again creating a new one, and the only difference is that we're going to be changing it, and that it's not going to be every 5 years, but it's going to be a 5-year rolling that we're going to incorporate into the budget season, so that way all of our projects are up to date, and we can look at those yearly and also look at our inventory yearly.
Yeah, we had a 10-year plan that's expiring next year. We decided to go with the 5-year, but it's just like the 10-year plan, it's a workable plan. So it can always change, depending on what we see out there. Mostly, as Ruth said, it involved the infrastructure, the streets, and that kind of stuff. So that's basically what it's more about. That's why I was more with engineering and PW, so.
Okay. And so as part of this new project planning, is there going to be a phase where aldermen are actually involved in some of the conversations or at least presentations to us on what the 5-year or 10-year plans will be?
Yes, what we'll have to do is, once we compose the 5-year plan, just like we did the 10-year plan, we would bring it to City Council, have it presented by us with respect to what's in it, and then have a period of time where you can make recommendations for either change or amending or adding or whatever it might be.
Okay.
And
Excellent.
also,
I
as
love
it's,
it.
yeah, as it's going to be part of the budget season also, that
Sweet.
way it's going to be presented to the Budget and Finance Committee also, before it even comes to council, and those are open, obviously, to the public, so.
I appreciate that the most. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, Z, thank you very much. We have no further questions. Thank you for your presentation.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for having us today, and have a good evening, everybody. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Goodbye, take care. Okay.
Bye-bye, thank you.
Goodbye, Mara. Bye, Patrick. The other item we have on the Committee of the Whole is the 2021 Property Tax Determination Presentation. Ben and Dana.
I may need to take off my mask. Thank you, Mayor. Tonight, we're going to, as we do around this time every year, we are presenting the property information needed to make a decision on determining which options to select in our property taxes. But before doing so, we want to give you a perspective of our budget process and present some overall summary numbers for your review so that it will help in the decision-making process. We will present the financial timeline. We'll also present a summary overview of the multi-year preliminary projections, and then as well as present two tax levy options, and of course how that impacts a median average property value and what the increase in the Berwyn part of the tax bill would look like as a result. If we go to the next slide, this gives a timeline as far as what certain deadlines are with regard to presenting the property tax levy determination and the deadline for the city to submit that ordinance to the county in order for it to be filed timely. Today, after making our presentation, City Council will select an option to draft in an ordinance the following month, which would be scheduled for December 7th at the City Council meeting. Fast forward, we have until March 31st to complete the budget and file that with the county and with the property tax levy. It represents somewhere around 20 to 30% of our overall revenues, our general fund revenues. So with that being said, we'll go to the next part of the timeline. Just moving forward, after tonight, we're looking at compiling all the information that we have thus far and finalizing our projections. We also have to consider year-end results, which includes tax data from the state and county. We also will look within our system at the transactions being posted and consider any new information pertaining to our health insurance rates from our broker, our health insurance broker, as well as review how our general liability and workers' comp claims, what the year-end accrual will look like. In February, after compiling all this information and capturing that into a draft, we will then in turn present to City our Budget and Finance Committee and present the major fund draft for our Budget and Finance Committee to review, and then move forward with incorporating that to our citywide draft sometime at the second council session, and it will be for council to review the following month in March. There will be a public hearing prior to the city council meeting with regard to the draft of the budget, where that draft will be voted upon, and of course it has to be, the approved budget has to be filed with the county by March 31st. So that's the timeline looking forward, but the next page we will present what our process entailed. This process began as early as December, where we met with our internal department heads, along with our city administrator, Ruth Green. Dana and I met with our department heads to go over line by line their revenues and the expenditures and track how things are coming along so far versus what the expectations are. From that point, we compiled a draft of what the initial next year's budget would look like, and we presented that to the Budget and Finance Committee. And we had 4 public meetings over the last month and a half, and it involved our fire department, our IT department, Public Works, as well as the police department. This represents 85% of our general general fund expense budget. Again, the items for discussion are revenue and expense trends, our expectations for not only next year, but through 2025, and going line by line, whatever cost reduction opportunities there exist, we sought to identify opportunities there. This has led, going into that detail with the Budget and Finance Committee as well as our department heads, this has led to our summary draft of the general fund. And looking at this report from left to right, it presents an illustration of how the previous 3 years audited results look like, 2018 through 2020, as well. And of course, if you look at 2020, obviously the COVID-19 pandemic had a financial impact on our revenues, but we were able to minimize that impact. What's important to consider is that led us to present a budget for 2021 that was rather conservative, not knowing whether that financial impact would spill over into 2021. It appears, as you see in the projected 2021 column, that that impact is not as severe as we thought at the beginning of the year. Primarily the sales, the state taxes, as well as our services, they're coming in stronger than initially expected. The expenses have risen, but not as high as our revenues that have been received, and that's led us to expect a break-even, a slight surplus of over $20,000. These results have become the basis of us being able to project 2022, posting strong results, primarily due to our sales taxes and being able to, as I had mentioned previously, to absorb any sort of inflationary increases, as well as our contractual union obligations as well. We foresee that 2023 through 2025, moderate increases in our revenues as well as our expenditures, and of course balanced budgets throughout. So the analysis to take away from this, from a summary overview, is that yes, the residual revenues that we're receiving from our state taxes have helped the city recover from the 2020 economic impact. Again, we expect balance to be budgeted. Balanced budgets for our general fund, where revenues are slightly higher than expenses. And real important, if looking at that, looking at the summary again, you notice our ending fund balance. It's our policy, City Hall's policy, that we maintain a 16% fund balance, and that's a percentage of the following year's budgeted expenditures. As you can see, our ending fund projected balances are at 20% and above, which is at a very favorable position, in the years ahead. Thus far, and this is based on recent months' transactions that we have encountered and data that's been available to us. And then one more. So, with this perspective of our outlook, we now evaluate a couple of tax levy options. But before doing so, here's some information that that is on the Cook County Assessor's website, and it still illustrates, as a result of the reassessment, that the median Berwyn property value is at a little under $192,000. But as far as very important to remember that the city of Berwyn represents roughly about 20 to 30% of an average tax bill for the so just bearing that in mind, calculating how the impact on an average taxpayer We just have to bear in mind that percentage of the total tax bill. So the next slide just gives a perspective since 2015, how the median property value has increased since 2015, where as of 2020 stands at about $192,000. So bearing in mind all of this, this leads us to two tax levy options. First, option A, we have an obligation to our bondholders to assess a levy of $500,000 through our debt service fund to honor our police and fire pension bond commitments. First, the pros, we're in compliance with the bond covenant. It represents a predictable funding source, as we had talked about in the last council session with the pension bonds, that the bondholders require that we have this dedicated funding source for future debt service payments. And of course, this option does include our normal pension disbursements to our police and fire pension funds. The cons, it is a $25 average tax increase to the taxpayers. That's based on a $192,000 home value to pay for this pension obligation. So that the first option, that's the impact on the taxpayers. If we flip the page to tax levy option B, what we're considering here is, I'm sure what everybody's well aware of, inflation and things that could happen that could impact the general fund in the future. So in the past, we are presenting a CPI option, to where we build in the existing inflation rate of 2.3%, and that leads us to an overall 2.8% increase that would go to the general fund. And of course, the pros in this option is that it does help the city absorb the impact of unanticipated higher expenditures. That includes if health insurance rates. In our projections, we have projected a 5% increase, and fortunately, our broker at Berwyn Insurance has been able to keep that increase down, but we cannot predict what's going to happen in the years to come. So that's one area that we've been able that we have to be considerate about, that increase could be higher. Hopefully, it's lower. The other thing is it's COVID-19 expenditures. Yes, the ARP program does assist in covering many of our ARP, but there could be some COVID-19 related expenditures that might not be covered with that specific grant program. So that helps in that regard. And again, in our workers' comp general liability claims, if those turn out to be higher than expected. This, the drawback is this CPI option results in a $48 taxpayer increase, and that's of course attributable to the city of Berwyn. So with those two options, I've summarized base option A, base option B, presented the 2020 levy, and of course those are the main differences between the two options. Again, I would like to leave the floor for questions. I definitely encourage whatever questions you might have that you can't think of right now. Again, by making a determination now, the vote to approve whatever determination is to occur a month from now. Any questions?
Questions, Alderman?
I have a question. So,
Yes.
so the difference with A and B, so B is taking into consideration things that may happen.
I'm sorry?
So B is taking things into consideration that may happen? So
Yeah,
covered for any eventuality?
Correct. Unanticipated expenditures.
And what if we don't have any of those? What would we do with?
Well, if these unanticipated expenditures, obviously that would contribute to adding to the general fund balance, which could be there to absorb future adverse impacts in other years.
Any other questions?
Ben, so unfortunately, I was not able to, and I understand that they're available and I can go back to them at any point. But is there a way that we can, or at least I know I would like it, I don't know if any of my colleagues would, is there a way that we can get the itemized budgets for each of the different departments, just to see how this all accumulates to this bottom line number that you're giving us?
Sure. Yes, we
Thank you.
can provide that. Yeah.
And then I know this isn't related, but is sort of related. Do we have a final number yet on the percentage for our bonds?
Oh,
What interest rate?
we have not established that with
Has
our
it been
estimating.
finalized yet?
It has
Do
not
we
been.
have an ETA expected timeline?
It's hard to say. Hopefully sooner than later. But we're moving on it as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, what Ben is looking for is a straw poll vote on either option A or option B. Does anybody wish to propose or put forward their ideas on which option?
I will. Option B?
The CPI?
Correct.
Okay, then I'll take a straw poll vote on option B. Lennon?
Yes.
Leisure?
Yes.
Fate?
Yes.
Pabon?
No.
Ruiz?
I don't really have a firm answer yet. I really appreciate, I like the idea of us forecasting and projecting and including a CPI, which we normally have not done. And with this being my second term, every year that we have voted on it, we have been very, very conservative with our increases. And COVID has taught us that, you know, being conservative has been very generous for our community, but it also put us in a very difficult position. I'm leaning towards that, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, Marinella?
B,
Pardon?
option B.
Okay, Carmichael?
No.
Okay. So the overall straw poll vote, the way I calculate it, is basically 4 for option B, 1 leaning towards it, and 2 no's. So that tells you you're going to put it forward in the ordinance on option B, and then on the date that you're bringing it to council, which was what date again?
It's going to be December 7th.
Okay, in the meantime, if you guys have questions, if you can get the alderman the breakdown on the budget
Yep.
that she requested. I know the committee already had that, did they not, Alderman Leonard?
Correct.
The committee has the breakdown? So if you can get her the same copy or anybody else that wishes one, so that they can take a look at it,
Yes.
Thank
okay?
you.
Clerk Paul, do you have what you need on the council? Do we have to announce it at the formal council, the straw poll vote in preparation? We're in compliance with this statute.
In the communication?
Yeah.
You have a communication,
Yep.
and at that time, it's just informational that the straw poll vote indicated option B,
Gotcha.
okay?
Yep.
Correct.
All right?
Gotcha.
Is that sufficient, Marge?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
All right, so I have nothing else for the committee of the whole. I ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Lennon
Second.
by
Aye.
Ruiz. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. See you back at 8 o'clock.
Okay, I'll go. Thank you.
March, you said that was the 19th, right?
Yes.
Okay, 11 a.m. via Zoom.
I haven't set up the Zoom,
Uh-huh.
but I'll send out a calendar invite and I'll add you to it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
don't know if you were planning on it. We should talk about the steam labs.
Oh, today?
Yeah, you should just announce it. When you were there, like, more, folks came and checked it out. I think it's a really cool thing that's going to happen in our city.
District, yeah. So then another minute comment, I should say that?
People talk about all the stuff that they're, I don't know. I was thinking to say something, and I was like, no, you should say it. Because you work, you know what I mean? Like, you're involved in the, you're involved in the school district, obviously,
All right.
And I don't want to, like, take shine.
No, it's okay.
Did you stop at any of the schools?
Which person I have a check?
Oh, you went to both?
Give Rob one?
Yeah, I ran out of time, so I went to Haveltech. I didn't get to make it to Jefferson. It's awesome. I'm excited.
For me?
Very happy. You could just give it all to us and we'll pass them down.
Thank you. Yeah, it's awesome. It was something that we've been talking about for years.
I know. I remember I was talking to Michelle when she first came on board about that. So it was nice to see that it finally,
To fruition.
yeah.
The real thing.
Yeah, I was talking to Gary.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, why not karaoke? He's like, it's going to be in phases, so they're next. And I was like, oh, cool. Yeah, I'm excited about it.
The family of people, it's cool to see them come in.
Yeah, there was a few coming in and out while I was over at Haveltech.
Makes me miss those school board days.
Instead of dealing with this boring stuff, right? You get to deal with some real. I'm sure. I get excited when I go over there. It's always refreshing to know when you're improving a child's life, you know?
Good. Said that a minute ago. Clerk Paul, can we call the council meeting to order?
Lennon,
Here?
Roywood, Lisa,
Here.
Fate,
Here.
Pabon,
Here.
Ruiz,
Here.
Aranella,
Here.
Carmichael.
Here.
7 present, Mayor.
I'll make a motion to excuse Alderman Roywood.
Second.
Motion by Lennon, seconded by Fate to excuse Alderman Roywood. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Can we all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If we could please keep in our thoughts and prayers the families of Deputy Chief, or former Deputy Chief Robert Erskine from the Fire Department, who recently passed away. The family of Leilani Capetta, a former division commander here in the Berwyn Police Department, who has recently passed away. The family of Lilia Macias, mother of Juan Macias, our community service officer. And Francis Gretsch, who is the grandfather-in-law to Community Service Officer Terry Young. Also, the men and women we have on the street tonight. Thank you. If anybody wishes to address the open forum, please step forward to the swinging gate. State your name and address, please. Tony?
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, elected officials, members of the council, and citizens of Berwyn. I am Tony Ward, the president of the Combined Veterans of Berwyn. For almost 2 years, we've had a difficult time in our community dealing with COVID. We have volunteered at the PAV YMCA every 2 to 3 weeks for the senior food distribution, through which we've been able to ensure that our veterans did not have to go without food, for which I am so grateful. Our summer expo, which we have done for the last 4 years, has grown to an outstanding size. About 10 days ago, I heard from the United States Navy, after numerous phone calls in the last 18, 19 months, that we'll be allowed to have an event that we've had here for over 15 years, Sailors for Christmas. Prior to COVID, there were 18 to 20 organizations that all took part in this. Since COVID's come along, there'll be 7 organizations taking part in this. A recruit training class has between 700 and 800 young men and women at any one time. When I was notified last week from my contact at Great Lakes Naval Training Center that the event was a go again, I was asked how many recruits we could take. I didn't think about it. I said we could handle 100. I didn't want to be the person to look at any one of these young men and women and say, you can go and you can't go, and you can go and you can't go. I didn't want to be that Scrooge. Some of the questions, it'll bring up a lot of questions. I'll need 2 big buses instead of 1. I'll have to double my food order. But this is something that we have done before in Berwyn. And I feel we can do this again. For about 15 years, we've done it. And as soon as I get through tonight and tomorrow, I'm going to start fundraising again. Getting things ordered, confirming the buses, ordering the food. And I'm going to figure out some kind of way to pull a rabbit out of a hat. Because normally I have 4 or 5 months to do this. This year, I've got just over 2. I've given you each a small flyer, which is just the beginning to announce the event. Much more information will be placed on Facebook under Sailors for Christmas. It's a separate Facebook page in the next coming week. That being said, I know all of you that can will support this endeavor, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else for open forum?
Sorry. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Susie Donnelly. I live in the 3rd Ward, 3102, Wisconsin, and you've seen me in a few meetings at this point talking about our active transportation efforts. And the city, as you know, because you were mayor at the time, ratified the active transportation plan to be enacted and true, honest efforts be implemented to put this plan to work within our city. And in 4 years ago, when I chose to purchase a home here and become part of this community based on friends who lived here and doing my research to find this plan, I was excited because I was like, ooh, I can have all the things I love about Chicago, which the BDC, congratulations, you did a really good job getting me here. And now I'm here and you have to kind of deal with me, for good or for bad. But the BDC is making efforts to bring people from Lincoln Square, Logan Square, Wicker Park, Bucktown, Pilsen, all of these areas in Chicago to bring our families to this community to keep it thriving and healthy. And what the people from those areas want is a walkable, bikeable community. I moved out of Lincoln Square, not because I wanted to leave Lincoln Square, but because I could not afford to live in Lincoln Square in the way that I needed to for my family. And I found that here, and I found amazing community members here. But you can't draw us here with promises that don't get delivered on, because we're going to ask you why they don't exist when we arrive. And there are a number of issues. We can't boil the ocean, and I'm not trying to. What I'm coming here today to talk to you about is to get ahead of winter, because winter is coming, as we all know. Snow is coming and all of the problems that come with that. Now, one of the things that Chicago does do is they require all of their citizens to clear their sidewalks. It's a ticketable offense if you don't, and I am not a fan of tickets. And I understand why in our community maybe we do not require that and make it a ticketed offense. The problem with that is that there are a number of places that severely impacts the mobility of our citizens. I'm going to point to Cermak and Home Avenue first. I know that last year we had a massive snow, which we had to bring plows in to be able to take care of the alleyways because it was so bad. I don't know if anybody ever went to the corner of Cermak and Home, which is the bus stop for a number of buses, which is right across the street from Oak Street Health, Street Health, I think, which is a health center for our elderly, and which is a direct path for all of the students who live on the north side of Berwyn to get to their high school. That was inexcusable and unpassable. And that was not the only year that it happened. I live car-free, so I bike these ways all the time, and I can see it in a way that you cannot see it in your car. You can only see it if you are walking or if you are on bike, because you cannot get around. I've had people argue with me that Berwyn is walkable and bikeable. And I just am coming to say that if there are not bike racks where we go, then it is not bikeable. Walkable and bikeable means more than just there's a sidewalk. It means taking real action with our city planning, our infrastructure, our enforcement, and our policing to ensure that every human being can get around this city, regardless of whether they are 1 year old and just learning to walk with their mom, or whether they're 90 years old and using a support apparatus. If it is not walkable, it is not acceptable for any of our residents. And I want to point out that 1/3 of our residents cannot drive. That statistic may seem weird, and you're like, where did you pull that out of? Well, 0 to 16 cannot drive. That's a big portion. And then you take anybody who's elderly, who has lost their license over time due to their eyesight, due to different abilities. And then you also take the people who choose not to drive, like me. That brings us to approximately 1/3 of our citizens. And if our city does not serve 1/3 of our populace, we are failing. So I'm here to ask you to consider some policies that we can implement that require our businesses to clear their sidewalks, because if somebody is, even if they're driving to park on the street near their business, the moment you get out of the car, you are a pedestrian. Every person in this room, every person in this city is a pedestrian first, and they might be using an automobile second. Every sidewalk should be clear for gentlemen like you. And I want to emphasize, this includes when we plow the streets, that we don't plow the snow into the intersection area for the sidewalks. Because you've utterly failed, again, if a person, I'm sorry, I didn't get your name. If Tony cannot get across a street from one sidewalk to the other because the snowplows have plowed in the sidewalk. I live on a corner. I shovel. I shovel, and I shovel, and I do it. It's a 1.5 mile walk by the time I've finished shoveling. And I shovel all the way down to the street, and I clear out everything that the snowplows put in. I think it's problematic that we invested in massive plows that can't fit everywhere, that don't support everyone, and that are not designed in a way to allow those sidewalks to not get plowed in. So I'm just asking you, before the snow hits, before it becomes a crisis, before I see more people who fall, who get hurt, I don't know if you've ever tried walking across the street with a stroller. Have you?
Not with a stroller, no.
In the snow?
No.
Do me a favor and try it. Just once, try it. Because unfortunately, the other piece that most of the men here will not understand is that an inequitable infrastructure impacts women and minorities at a greater scale than anybody else, because we do 60% more of the household transportation than the men in our homes. This transportation stat results in us losing financial, in us losing mobility, in us losing job opportunities. It impacts us financially. And as a single mother living in this community, I think it is problematic that my ability to get my kids to school at 12 years old is impacted because our streets are not safe or clear or passable for my 2 children to walk 4 blocks to their school. And it is not just my neighborhood. I live in a pretty easy, like one of the more walkable ones. But if you get south of Ogden, it is a nightmare, and it is unexcusable. I've seen people attempting to cross Ogden. They don't get lights. They push the button, and I've sat there watching and waiting because I can't trigger a single stoplight in this city. They've pushed the walk button, and the walk button ignores them, skips them because there is not a car to trigger it in addition to their begging. So, some pretty simple things that we can do. Eliminate beg buttons in our city. I don't know if you're
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Yeah, eliminate beg buttons at all of our stoplights. Do you know what a beg button is?
Mm-hmm.
Just to clarify, a beg button is not just a notification that I want to cross. A beg button specifically means I do not have the right of way to cross unless I push the button. And when that light cycles, if I push the button but it's already going, like I'm trying to go northbound and northbound cars are already going, I will not get permission to go until a full cycle. I'm the person without shelter, without wind protection, without rain protection or snow protection. The pedestrian is the most vulnerable on the street and should take priority every single time. And when we make our stoplights require a person to beg to cross the street, that mentality trickles down everywhere throughout our community. Cars see that pedestrians don't have the right of way, They will not give pedestrians the right of way, and everybody knows that, especially right now, whatever's going on with the pandemic and our drivers' kind of mental patience and willingness to obey the law, they are blowing through stop signs. This is trickle down from being told subconsciously that that pedestrians don't have the right of way anywhere, because we have to beg even at the most controlled intersections. So why is a car going to give you priority at a stop sign? They don't. It's impacting us. So I will stop at that point. I would love to help work with the council to help implement some of the things that the Active Transportation Alliance encouraged us to put through. I would like to help you reevaluate that plan because it is a decade old, and there are great significant improvements on infrastructure and thinking around mobility. The data stat that I talked about with women being greater impacted comes from a research study in Sweden where they decided to evaluate their entire life to understand equity within their community. And a gentleman jokingly quipped as they were saying, well, we'll look at finances and housing and food and all of these things. He's like, well, next thing you know, you're going to tell me that the way we plow our streets is inequitable. And it was proven correct. So I am a member of this community. I'm not going anywhere. I'm here to help. I hope that this can give you some ideas for how we can get ahead of winter, because it's going to be another hard one, I'm sure. It just keeps getting harder, right? I'm hoping that you'll help everybody in this community be able to get to a park or a playground, whether it's a sunny day or a snowy day. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else for open forum? Alderman, I'm sorry.
Luz Chavez, 1600 Ridgeland. So Mayor Lavero, I have personally experienced and seen you violating constituents' freedom of speech multiple times during the last 4 or so years that I've lived here. In 2019, when I came to speak at Open Forum, asking again and again for there to be a comprehensive translation and interpretation of city meetings and city documents. During that, during my statement, you shut me down. Again, you tried shutting down public comment by saying no politics can be discussed, which is pretty nonsensical. I'm not even sure what that means, and there's no law that says you can't talk about politics in open forum. This is City Hall. And even so, though you said that, and that there's no bearing to what you said, as I approached the podium to speak, you again threatened to shut me down. I was at Havlicek on election day, the day that your political party invited thugs to intimidate voters, and when you all violated the sanctity of Election Day. I was there last week when in an open city meeting, Alderman Leja told a resident that she couldn't speak anymore, even though she spoke the same length as other residents there. I've seen you shut down the Facebook live stream of city meetings and instead opting to only use YouTube because why? On Facebook, you cannot shut down comments. On YouTube, you can. And now there are signs all over City Hall saying that recording devices are not allowed without prior consent. That's a lie. The statute you listed applies to private conversations. I have every right to sit here and record this meeting. Open meetings can be recorded. Your sign is purposely misleading, and I believe that's just another instance in your pattern of trying to stifle free speech. And I really just don't understand why. Why are you so scared of words? Why are you so scared of constituents speaking up and saying something you don't agree with? Why are you so scared of even participating during an election season in public debate? Your fear does not show leadership. You are scared again and again of constituents expressing free thought or anything that would, any words that attempt to hold you accountable. You're scared of your own constituents. How could any official who believes in democracy, who respects the pledge that you always open up these city meetings with, have those signs all over our city hall? This is not your city hall. This is not your private business. This is public property. The city hall, all of you are accountable to constituents, and you keep violating and disrespecting our free speech. Berwyn deserves better than that. You are facing multiple lawsuits of violating free speech. And I will be glad for court day and for the day that decisions are made in those lawsuits, because Berwyn deserves better. Constituents have every right to operate and live in a town that respects democracy.
Thank you. Anybody else for open forum? Alderman, anything for open forum? Okay, hearing none. Item C1, please.
Item C1 are the minutes of the Committee of the Whole and regular City Council meeting of October 26, 2021.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes of the Committee of the Whole and regular City Council minute for October 22nd.
Second.
26th, sorry.
Motion by Lennon, seconded by Fay to approve the minutes of the regular City Council meeting and the Committee of the Whole for October 26, 2021. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Item F1, please.
Item F1 is a communication from the mayor regarding resignation and appointment of a member of the Berwyn Library Board.
I will make a motion to concur with Mayor Lavero's appointment of J. Patrick Cagney as a member of the Library Board, and thank Cynthia Hayes for the time she spent on the Library Board throughout the years.
Second.
Motion by Lennon, seconded by Fate, to concur with the recommendation of appointing J. Patrick Cagney to the Library Board, and thank Cynthia Hayes for her dedication as she's shown a Library Board member for many years. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Patrick?
Please raise your right hand. Do you, J. Patrick Cagney, having been appointed to fill an unexpired term on the City of Berwyn Library Board in the County of Cook aforesaid, do solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States, support the Constitution of the State of Illinois, and that you'll faithfully discharge the duties of the office of the City of Berwyn Library Board according to your best abilities? Thank you.
Congratulations, Patrick. Item H1, please.
Item H1 is a communication from the Zoning, Planning, and Development Commission regarding a variance at 2335 Clinton Avenue.
I'd like to make a motion to approve all three variances, variance requests, and adopt ordinance H1B.
For the record, I'd like to read an ordinance approving variations relative to a second-story addition to an existing single-family bungalow within the R2 Bungalow zoning district at 2335 Clinton Avenue, Berwyn, Illinois. Cesar Nunez.
Second.
I have a motion by Aaronella, seconded by Carmichael. Joe, you second?
Yep.
Okay. To approve ordinance H1B, affix the necessary signatures and place it on its way to passage. All those in favor, and call the roll.
Lennon?
Aye.
Boywood? Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. Leisure?
Aye.
Fate?
Aye.
Pabon?
Aye.
Ruiz?
Aye.
Aaronella?
Aye.
Carmichael?
Aye.
7 ayes, Mayor.
Motion carried. Item I1, please.
Item I1 is a communication from Alderman Lennon regarding Budget and Finance Committee meeting minutes.
I will make a motion to accept the Budget and Finance Committee minutes as informational.
Second.
Motion by Lennon, seconded by Carmichael to accept the minutes as informational. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Item I2, please.
I2 is a communication from the Police and Fire Commission regarding probationary police officer Anthony P. Visick.
I move that we accept as informational the request from the Police and Fire Commissioners.
Second.
Motion by Leisure, seconded by Fate to approve the communication as informational for the probationary police officer Anthony Visick. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Item I3, please.
I3 is a communication from the Police and Fire Commission regarding probationary police officer Salvatore O. Di Agostino.
I move that we accept as informational I3 submitted from the Police and Fire Commissioners.
Second.
Motion by Leisure, seconded by Fate to consider the communication for probationary police officer Salvatore D'Agostino as informational. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Item J1, please.
J1 is from City Attorney Anthony Bertucco regarding Ronald R. Peterson, trustee for Mac Industries Limited.
Be my motion to approve the settlement with Ronald R. Peterson, trustee for Mac Industries Limited, total amount of $11,000 based on authority granted in executive session.
Second.
Motion by Fate, seconded by Lennon to concur with the recommendation by City Attorney Bertucca and approve the settlement with Ronald R. Peterson as trustee for Mac Industries in the amount of $11,000 as authority granted in executive session. All those in favor on the call of the roll.
Lennon?
Aye.
Leisure?
Aye.
Fate?
Aye.
Pabon?
Aye.
Ruiz?
Aye.
Arinella?
Aye.
Carmichael?
Aye.
7 ayes, Mayor.
Motion carried. Item J2, please.
J2 is a communication from Finance Director Benjamin Dace regarding determination for estimated 2021 property tax levy.
I will make a motion to accept option B for the tax levy and to draft into ordinance.
Second.
Motion by Lennon, seconded by Fate to adopt option B as the tax levy and draft it into a levy ordinance. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
2 nays?
Mayor, do I abstain at this point since I'm
That
unsure?
would be up to you.
Abstain.
Okay, so we have 4 ayes, 2 nays, and 1 abstention. Passed. Item J3, please.
Item J3 is a communication from Fire Chief Hayes regarding authorization to seek RFP for replacement of department's self-contained breathing apparatus.
I move we approve Fire Chief Hayes' request to seek RFPs for replacement of the department's self-contained breathing apparatus.
Second.
Motion by Leja, seconded by Lennon, to concur with the recommendation of Fire Chief Hayes and allow them to seek RFPs for the replacement of the fire department's self-contained breathing apparatus. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Item J4, please.
J4 is a communication from Chief Hayes requesting authority to seek proposals for cabinetry.
I move we approve Fire Chief Thomas Hayes' request to seek RFPs for cabinetry for Station 901.
Second.
Motion by Leja, seconded by Lennon, to concur with the recommendation of Chief Hayes and allow him to seek RFPs for cabinetry for Station 901. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Item J5, please.
J5 is from Chief Hayes regarding authorization to seek RFPs for hood and fire suppression system at Station 901.
I move we approve Fire Chief Hayes' request to seek RFPs for hood and fire suppression system at Station 901.
Second.
Motion by Leja, seconded by Lennon, to concur with the recommendation of Chief Hayes and allow him to seek RFPs for hood and fire suppression systems at Station 901. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Item J6, please.
J6 is a communication from Building Director Lazara requesting permission for partial demolition of 6705 West Cermak Road.
I move that we concur with the request from Building Director Charles Lazara to grant permission to demolish the approximately 1,000 square foot existing building with a small shed, the mobile gas station, at 6705 West Cermak Road, with plans to build a 3,880 square foot building, which will include a food cafe and other amenities.
Second.
Motion by Leja, seconded by Lennon, to concur with or grant permission to give the demolition permit of 6705 West Cermak Road. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Item J7, please.
J7 is a communication from City Administrator Ciaba Green regarding renewal of general liability insurance.
I will make the motion to authorize city administration to execute a contract with Princeton for general liability insurance at the $10 million limit as increased SIR of $1 million and a premium of $255,906, include a discount of $5,000 for the loss control expense contribution.
Second.
Motion by Lennon, seconded by Fate, to concur with the recommendation and authorize the execution of a contract with Princeton for the general liability insurance at the $10 million limit with an increased SIR of $1 million, the premium of $255,906, which includes the $5,000 loss control expense contribution credit. All those in favor, on the call of the roll.
Lennon?
Aye.
Leisure?
Aye.
Fate?
Aye.
Pabon? Ruiz?
Aye.
Aranella?
Aye.
Carmichael?
Aye.
7 ayes, Mayor.
Motion carried. Item J8, please.
J8 is a communication from the city administrator regarding amending employee handbook.
I motion to approve the changes of the city employee handbook.
Second.
Motion by Aranella, seconded by Lennon, to concur and approve the changes to the city employee handbook. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. The consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to,
I'm sorry, before we
Go ahead.
do that, I'd like to make a motion to pull item, I'm sorry, I was scrolling to that. I have handicap parking application that was approved in my ward. I believe it's 2121 Elmwood.
Okay.
I'd like to
that's-
defer that for 2 weeks. There was some, there's a discrepancy in the application and fines that are due on this property, so I'd like to look into it a little further.
Okay.
Motion to bring forward and defer.
Yes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
second.
Motion by Ruiz, second by Aranella, to bring forward item K12 from the consent agenda and defer it for 2 weeks. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Do I have a motion on the remainder of the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
Motion by Lennon, seconded by Fate, to approve the consent agenda as amended. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Aldermanic committee meetings, Alderman Lennon,
Call it, Chair.
Alderman Leisure,
Call of the chair.
Alderman Fate,
Call of the chair.
Alderman Pabon.
We have a ward meeting coming up Tuesday, November 23rd at Het Park Studio, 6 o'clock. And then there will be another ad hoc rat abatement committee meeting Tuesday, November 30th here at City Hall in council chambers at 6 p.m.
Okay, Alderman Ruiz.
I have a proposed date for the Public Works Committee. I'm proposing our next, right before our next city council meeting on Tuesday, November 23rd at 5:30 p.m.
Okay, Alderman Aranella.
I just want to mention that today, District Berwyn North 98 opened up STEAM labs in 2 of their schools. Great turnout, great thing for the students there. It will be open for students from K through 5th grade, and it'll be a class for them. So good things happening in 98. Just wanted to mention that. Call the chair.
Call the chair. Alderman Carmichael.
Got a ward meeting next week, this Tuesday, the 16th at 7 p.m. at the VFW on 16th in Harlem. And motion to adjourn.
Second. Motion adjourned by Carmichael, seconded by Lennon. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.